Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 11, I believe, of the Crag Chat Climbing Podcast. Today, I am here with bringing in the new year with Hannah Phillips.
Hello.
She is my first Pittsburgh guest. Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. I'm pumped to be here.
For reference, we're both running on like 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Holiday season, gotta love it.
Gotta love it. It's gonna be a zombie-ish podcast, but we'll pull through.
Yeah, we should have done this for like a Halloween episode. I'll have to just like bring it back for Halloween.
Yeah, re-air it.
Hannah's been climbing for how many months now?
I think, so I started climbing in the beginning of March of 2022. So probably, I guess, 10 months now?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting how people know, like, specifically when they started climbing.
It automatically, like, took over my life once I started.
Tell me about how you got into climbing, because I know you were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, so I started climbing seriously in early March because Ascend my home gym was running a deal. It was 5-day passes for $5 each. And so my boyfriend at the time was a big climber, and he had taken me like a couple of times, and I didn't really get it. I was like, oh, this could be a fun thing to just, BS and work out. But it wasn't until Ascend was running the deal that I actually tried it and went by myself. It was the first time I had gone climbing by myself and had solo sessions. And I just got immediately hooked. Like, I used up the 5-day passes literally back to back. And I, immediately got a membership. Got climbing shoes eventually. I was using the rentals for a while. I think what made me fall in love with it was the actual solo part, because it is like an individual sport, and I've grown up playing individual sports, but the community is like there to cheer you on when you need it, but it's so much like a personal mental game and physical game.
I think it's interesting because some people say that like they fell in love right away,
Mm-hmm.
and other people are like, it took me like a minute to kind of like get into it.
Yeah.
I know for me, like, as soon as I started going, I was just like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Granted, at the time, like, I also wasn't working, so it was a little bit easier for me to, like, obsess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's any other sport that people, like, obsess as hard about. Like, it takes over to the lifestyle. Like, climbing is a very lifestyle-driven thing. It
is. It's so wild. And I get that, especially, like, I'm only a gym climber, too. That's the crazy thing, is I've been outdoors bouldering once, and I've never been on ropes. I've done, like, the auto belay stuff here, but that's, like, very, very tame. The lifestyle aspect of like, yeah, let's go to Vegas or Red Rocks or wherever we want to go to climb for like a weekend or a week. And I totally get the appeal of that part of it too. I love that it's a creative form of working out. Like,
yeah,
that's my personal favorite thing, because I've never put on muscle before because I couldn't stand the thought of just like standing there and doing bicep curls or whatever.
I was actually going to ask you if you, like, because you said you played tennis growing up.
Yeah.
And did you play, like, doubles, or did you play by yourself in tennis?
I primarily played singles.
Okay.
Yeah, singles player. My dad teaches tennis professionally, so I was, like, born with a racket in my hand. So, yeah, I played tennis my whole life, and then the only other, like, activities I've done are yoga, running. I love walks.
For me, one of the appeals of climbing is exactly what you're talking about, how, like, it's a solo sport,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, you have the community behind you. If you think about it, yoga, same type of a thing. Running, same type of a thing.
Totally.
Like, and I also think that it's interesting that, like, in climbing, running, and yoga, there's this aspect, and don't get me wrong, there are competitive portions of all those sports.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, it's one of the only sports, like, say you go to a basketball game, right? It would be odd to be like, yeah, we don't really care if we, like, win.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're just, like, out here to have fun. Like, don't get me wrong, there are people that do play.
No, it's such a personal thing. Like, to be fair, I did play softball for a couple of years, but I didn't stick with it. Like, I am not a competitive person at all. I get a lot of fulfillment out of, like, doing the thing, and that's why, like, I get hooked on projects in the gym. I will work at something for like 3 weeks because I either love the movement of this particular problem, or I can like see myself, like visualize myself completing it, and I'll just get hooked and I will love projecting it. And if I send it, that's great, but like I'm getting a good workout in the meantime. So it's, I don't know. I said earlier, I'm much more of a process over product type of person. I love doing the thing, and I don't really care so much about the result.
Which is great for climbing.
Great for climbing.
Because most of it is falling. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, other than I just like am interested in you and your life, is because you're at a stage. So I've been climbing for around 5 years now, and you've been climbing less than a year. So like I was interested in like your perspective on like climbing as a whole compared to someone that's like been around the scene for a little bit more, and also specifically like Pittsburgh climbing.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about like Pittsburgh climbing and like the climbing community and like I don't know, but like the good and the bad, like what's Pittsburgh climbing like? Because I don't know.
So to be fair, you said it. I have been climbing for less than a year, and even more than that, like I have only been really, really tight with my friends for about 6 months, because it took me like a couple of months of showing up to the gym alone and then maybe talking to someone and maybe cheering on someone, but
Did you find that difficult?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think that's the other weird thing about my approach to climbing is whenever I bring friends here or new climbers, they always get like super nervous they just get stage fright. They get nervous to fall in front of everybody. They don't want to try stuff because they're worried about that. And I never really had that for some reason.
That's really refreshing to hear, because I also never had that.
Yeah.
I think it's like maybe the process over product type of a mentality, because like I also like, I don't know about you, I'm not speaking for you, but for me personally, like I've just been so mediocre at everything I've done for my entire life that I'm just like, I really don't have that high of expectations. But like that's honestly like kind of a nice way to approach things too. If you just approach it like, hey, I might not send this, but I'm gonna like give it my best go.
Zero expectations, and it's exactly that. I just don't get stage fright or the performance anxiety or whatever, because I'm not really like, no one cares if I send it or if I fail. Like it's all just about me doing the thing and like touching the plastic. That is literally like that's kind of how I think about gym climbing, is like we are all just here to have a good time and get a good workout in. Like we're literally pulling on colored plastic rocks. How ridiculous is this? And so like you can't really, when you think of it in those terms, like you can't really get anxious about it, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is like people have been like, what is the point of climbing? Like why do you climb? What is the meaning? And people love to do that in other solo sports. Like I work for a running company, and they look, why do you run? And like honestly, I get kind of sick of it. Sometimes you don't have to like know why you're doing something. It just has to bring you joy. And I know so Hannah, for those of you that don't know, she's an artist. And I remember really specifically in college, there was a time where I was like randomly did this spontaneous like abstract art project. And I was like, I had a really bad day, and I just had so much fun making this random thing. Existence was the name of it, because I was like, we should just like appreciate that we exist and like that we're here and that we get to enjoy that. That's how I feel about climbing.
Yeah,
like,
I feel the exact same way, and the community is just a total bonus. Like I did not come into climbing expecting to have literally met my best friends. Like I had a birthday party this year with everyone in attendance I had known for less than 4 months, and yet they all felt like I've known them for years and years, and it is my core friend group now, which is so nuts. But all of that to say, the Pittsburgh climbing community, we're
on that. Good job.
Well, but I have no bad things to say about it, really. I've only had positive experiences with like people uplifting each other, and to be fair, I am still just a gym climber, so it could be different outdoors. I don't know, but I imagine that if you're into climbing in general, I find that it attracts just like a gaggle of goofy people, and I'm a huge fan of goofballs, so
Yeah.
I think it's just fantastic.
We can get to this later, but we were talking about goofy people outside the podcast, and you called them kooks. And, like, I've heard the word before, but I was just like, man, I need to keep that one in my back pocket, because that's a good one.
Yeah, it's goofy, kooky people.
Yeah, I do find that, like, with climbing becoming more popular, it's, like, interesting. I think the more popular climbing becomes, people want to see that, like, competitive aspect of it, which is great, but, like, I think maybe it takes away a little bit from, like, the kooky, like, weird nature of it all.
I totally agree. I think that if you really do commit to climbing, I think if you actually commit to it, you're just prone to, it sounds so weird, but I think you're prone to becoming a kinder, better person, because the crowd that climbing attracts is so uplifting, and like it's the concept of you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, if the people you're spending the most time with are all pulling on plastic rocks for fun, I think that's just a good positive impact to your life, you know?
Yeah, I will say, like, I really like that you bring this point up, because I'm so glad that you've had the experience that you've had, but I have noticed that I have friends that climb that are, like, really unsatisfied with, like, their performance in climbing, or, like, they just beat themselves up all the time, and I've noticed, like, this is my advice to new climbers, and I would say that you would probably say the same. If you're leaving every session where you climb with people and you're just feeling like shit about yourself, take time to reflect how much of that is, like, internal pressure that you're putting on yourself, and how much of it is coming from the people you're climbing with. And like, if a lot of it's coming from the people you're climbing with, like, for example, I'm going to use specifics. I had a friend that she would climb with this person that always told her, like, you're not trying hard enough. Which, like, to some extent can be helpful. Like, you need to commit.
You need to want it. Yeah.
But every single time that they tried to climb something, the answer from their friend on why they weren't getting this problem was that, like, they weren't trying hard enough. That just, like, wears you down over time. And I also would, like, it's good to climb with people that are better than you, but, like, if your self-esteem is suffering because you're consistently, like, I can't climb as hard as these people can't, then maybe, like, just for a day climb with people that, you know, are more at a similar level, or, like, you know, or even by yourself.
Yeah, solo sessions are underrated. I love a good solo session. Like, I'll come here for 4 hours on the weekend and just have my headphones in.
When you climb solo, do you usually climb with music, or?
I like to climb with music. Sometimes I listen to podcasts, and then sometimes it's just nothing. Most of the time, like, I always see someone that I know here, so it's usually like taking the AirPods out and like, hey, how are you? Oh, did you send that thing last week? It's always just back and forth between, like, music, podcasts, and no music, just depending on how busy it is, who I see.
Where do you see yourself on the, like, extroverted to introverted scale?
Oh, I'm extremely introverted. Don't get me wrong, I adore my friends and family, but I'm one of those people who, if you said, Hannah, you have to go live in a cabin in the woods for the next 10 years and you're not going to have any contact with humans, I'd be like, where do I sign up?
Have you heard of the show Alone?
I have not, but I think I'd be great at it.
Okay, yeah, so that's the whole concept of the show, like, not to get too much into it, but this is a prelude to the rest of the episode. Yeah, basically they take 12 people, they put them all out, like, in the same general wilderness area, and they're alone, and the whole goal is just outlast the other people. But you don't know.
You don't know who's left or how many people are left. That's
and every week they check in to, like, make sure you're still alive.
No, I would rock with that. It doesn't mean I'm, like, shy or whatever. I love talking to my friends. Obviously, like, we're here, but definitely gain my energy from my alone time.
Yeah, I'm extremely extroverted. Like, 90% of the time I love being around people. Yeah. And the 10% is just, like, planning how to be around people. But, I feel like that really does play, because I personally would love to go do a solo session, but I think I've managed to do, like, 2 solo sessions in my entire life, because I take a headphone out and then the headphone's out. Like, it's out. It's not going back in.
Hilarious.
So speaking of, like, climbing with people.
Yes.
You climb with your brother sometimes?
Yes, I got him into climbing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, how is that having a sibling that climbs?
Oh my gosh, it has brought us closer, and I have 3 younger siblings, and we're all very close in age and just very close in general. But Mark is 20, and he's the youngest, and I'm the oldest. He is like such a sweetheart, truly like the family's golden child. But he also is a 20-year-old idiot and is like doing 20-year-old idiot things. And so when I started climbing, I kept telling him, like, Mark, you have to try this. You would love it. You'd be so good at it. You like just come with me once, and I'll hook you up with the rental shoes. We'll spend like 2 hours there and just try it. He tried it and got like a membership the same day. Loved it. And I was so pumped because I think especially if you are going through a period of life that people generally perceive as like, oh yeah, everyone struggles in their early 20s, or everyone, like especially teenagers too. I think climbing is such a good outlet for you because the community is so encouraging, but it's also like just a slightly unusual activity to say that you do on a regular basis. And I think climbing has been great for him, but it's also been great for our relationship. And we've gotten so much closer in the past 6-7 months that we've been climbing together. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I have 4 younger siblings.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oldest kid, let's go.
Some of my siblings are like, they'll go climbing, but they like have never gotten hooked on it. And I think it's simply because of like access to it. I think that if it was a little closer, then maybe. Especially my youngest sister, I feel like man, woman, has child should be like spit out same exact product, right?
Right.
And like your interests should be similar, but like there's something that just like doesn't click in some people's brains on why they like it. But
I mean, there is a lot about climbing that I can logically work out. Like, it makes a ton of sense why I'm so drawn to this thing. Like, it's a visual sport. Like I'm a very visual person, and all of my job is based on like creativity and art and video editing and all that. And so
I'm gonna shamelessly plug Hannah's stuff. HP Media, right? Is her Instagram. Media, go check that out. Curly Climbers, her brother's Instagram. Anyways, continue.
But like it's visually it's a beautiful sport, and then there is so much creative problem solving. So logically, it makes so much sense why I'm drawn to this.
There's certain movements that just feel good.
Yes.
You were telling me that you've been drawn to overhung stuff lately.
Yeah.
Is that when you first started? Was that something that you shied away from, or something? Explain that.
Yeah. When I first started, I avoided dynos and I avoided like overhung stuff at all costs because I was just very weak. Like I have never put on muscle. Lifting never sounded fun to me. I was super weak when I started, didn't have like any upper body strength at all, and obviously like you need a decent amount of upper body strength to even hop on a V1 on overhang. So I was not really attempting to get better at it, but now that I am stronger and I have muscles now, like who would have thought? I'm like much more drawn to trying overhung problems because I think number one, I know that it's making me a lot stronger, and I am in this phase now where I'm trying to actively work on my weaknesses, and they're kind of turning into not weaknesses anymore.
Funny how that works,
right? It's like they're not quite strengths, but I'm not nearly as weak at them as I was.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I always so I had a friend tell me I finished an overhung problem, and I was super stoked about it. She's like, that's awesome. She's like, you used to be really bad at overhang. And then she goes, she tried to backtrack, and I was like, no, you're right. Like I used to be bad.
I'm still pretty bad at overhang. If I was telling you, if I'm at the end of a session and I hop on a V1, it's like a struggle to finish. But all that said, I still climb like 2 grades better when I'm on slab. But
Have you heard of Anna Hazelnut at all?
Yes, love her.
Okay, so you probably know this, but I'm just going to share it with the listeners.
Yeah.
Climbing is really style dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So like you were saying, you can climb 2 grades higher on slab than you can overhung. So Anna Hazelnut, for reference, those of you who don't know her, she is a pro climber that has climbed ridiculous things like 514A.
Yep.
I don't know what her hardest boulder grade is, but definitely double digits, like super hard stuff. And she said that she bouldered for like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and she could do like a V10 plus boulder as long as it was slab.
Yeah.
And then she like was climbing with some of her guy friends that were climbing overhung stuff, and she could do like V3.
Yeah.
And she was like, wait, like there's a disconnect. So she did exactly what you're saying and just focus on only her weaknesses. And that's such like a difficult thing because it's just like a hit to your ego over and over and over. But I think that if you can tell yourself like every time you fall, like that doesn't mean that you failed. That actually is a really good thing.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine if you just sent everything? That'd be so boring.
It'd be so boring. Like I would stop coming to the gym. The only reason I come to the gym is because I still fall. Like obviously, there are problems that you want to complete. And then there are problems that you just want to hop on and try, and like, I just want to be here. I want to be here all the time. Like, the gym is my happy place now.
How many days a week do you climb?
Probably 4 to 5.
4 to 5?
It used to be like 5, 6, and then I was like, oh no, rest days aren't very important.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably 4 solid days.
Yeah, that's good that rest is important because I feel like because it's such an obsessive sport, like people are like I'm gonna do it every day. I know I did that because I'd have a group of friends that would climb Monday, Wednesday, and another group that would climb Tuesday, Thursday. It's like I want to go all the week, and then I'd climb on the weekends, and I'd be like, oh wait, I'm always climbing. On your 4 days of climbing, do you have any sort of like regiment you try to stick to, or is it kind of just whatever?
I've gone through phases where I will like commit once a week to doing like every V2, V3 in the gym, or trying every 2-4 or whatever it is. I'll have like one of the 4 days where I'm doing more so just like a volume session where I just want to spend more time on the wall as opposed to like projecting, sitting and resting for 10 minutes in between an attempt and stuff like that. But most of my sessions are projecting or like hopping from really hard climb to really hard climb and just like getting solid attempts in on those. And I say hard for my grade.
My
ability.
Yeah, I get sucked into just like running around and trying everything because they always reset and you have to try the new thing. And I'm really bad at sticking with a project, so I really admire that. I get to the point where I feel like I get stuck on the same move, and then I just can't get past it. So and I'm like, I don't know how to get past it. So then I just move on to something that I do. But whenever I actually stick with it, it's like so much more rewarding to actually get it.
It's so rewarding. Literally, one of the highlights of my year was sending my first V5, V7. That is truly one of the highlights of 2022 for me because I worked on that thing for 3 weeks. I literally put in over 100 attempts, and I remember like, oh man, okay, I have the beginning sequence down, and I finally figured out how to get through this middle part. And then part of the reason why I was able to send it at all was because I spent so much time in front of that problem. I saw all of these really strong climbers like cycle through session after session. They would do it a different way than I was, and so I got to like try all of this different beta, and finally like unlocked whatever worked for me. So that's kind of why I like projecting, because you are like sitting in the same spot for so long and you get to see all these different people attempt it.
When you were projecting that 5 to 7, did you try to work certain sections, like not pull onto the start every time?
No, I'm a bad projector because I always put every attempt in from the start, and it literally makes me a bad projector because I don't piece things together. I don't try to isolate moves. I just go from the start and I try to get like it really dialed in, because like at some point when you've put enough attempts in on something, it's like you enter flow state for whatever sequence you have really finely tuned. I'm not going to say it's no effort to do a hard climb, but like if you've put literally 30 attempts in on this beginning sequence and you have that down, it's like you still have energy for the thing that you're actually working on. I think of it in that way, which I know logically is not actually true. Like, you're using a lot of energy in the beginning part when you could be working on whatever section you're falling off of. But I need to be better about doing projects in pieces.
Yeah.
Just to conserve energy and sanity. But
yeah, no, it's always like that quote, like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over
and expecting different results.
Wait, actually, didn't you just say something about that? Yeah, I didn't even mean to, like, but that's funny. Yeah, no, I definitely, like, that was a concept to me. Anyone that's listening, like, maybe you're like, whatever, this is obvious, but anyone that's listening that's like, wait, you don't have to start from the start every time, like, no, let me say it again. You don't have to start from the start every time. It's life changing.
It really is. When I first started climbing and I would see people projecting really hard, I don't know, 6/8, whatever. And even at the time when I first started, I was like, you're projecting that 2/4. Oh my gosh, you're so good.
Right?
But I would see people projecting and not go from the start, and I was like, do they not know you're supposed to start? Like, you know, just like, as if I knew better.
You're like, hi, excuse me, you're climbing this, like, 11.
Like, oh, you know, actually this is the start line.
Can you imagine going up to them? Reminds me of, there was this time, I was, like, slipping off this move. This newer climber, like, with the best intentions, went over, and he's seen people, like, pat the thing with his chalk, like, the chalk before you, like, make it, but then they usually, like, brush it after or whatever. He just, like, took a handful of his chalk and, like, dropped it. Like, just dropped it on the hold, and then just, like, goes, like, this little bit, and it was like, there, that should be better if you know. It was like, he was doing it out of a place of, like, and I just, like, tried it, and I was like, my shoe was, like, covered in chalk, because he had just, like, dropped it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I was like, thank you so much. I was like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not gonna get it. And then he left, like, brushed off all the chalk. For those of you that don't climb in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
You know where this is going.
I think I know.
You need to follow this account. Tell them about this very Pittsburgh, actually very Ascend-based account. That's hilarious.
It's an Ascend-based Instagram account, and it came out of nowhere. And actually, a lot of people thought that I was behind it at first, because I think I had started my climbing Instagram account, like, around the same time this other, like, Ascend-based account popped up. So I had just started posting on Curly Climbers, which is my joint climbing account with my brother. And, like, a week later, this account pops up, and I think it's called, what is it called? It's like, this hold literally went up yesterday.
You'll be able to find it.
Yeah, it's called This Hold Went Up Yesterday or something. It's basically just shitting on people who don't brush their projects and don't brush their holds. They'll take pictures of start holds of climbs and put in the caption the date that it was set and then the date that they took the picture. And it's really hilarious. Like, some of these holds are literally just white. You cannot tell what color they are.
And they went up yesterday.
There's two.
This hold went up yesterday, and then there's a secondary brush your damn
holds account. I forgot about that. But yeah, so I think one of the reasons, oh my gosh, full circle, one of the reasons everyone thought that I'd started it is because one of the first holds that they posted was the start hold for that V5, V7 I was projecting. And so I automatically am like, oh, they're calling me out. Like, literally, my whole group of gym friends knew that I was, like, working at this problem. So they obviously thought, like, oh, Hannah's just calling herself out. Like, I don't know, but it wasn't me. I still have my suspicions. I think I know who it is.
Okay, let's get to what we really want to talk about.
I'm so excited.
So, Hannah and I recently discovered that, well, we didn't recently individually discover that we're fans of the reality game show Survivor.
Right.
but we recently discovered that we each like it.
Yes.
And that we can geek out about it.
Oh my gosh, I will geek out about Survivor for hours.
So, fun fact, this just live, I'm actually interviewing the future winner of Survivor Season 46. I don't know if you want that public.
I don't care, that's fine.
Yeah, Hannah applied to be on Survivor.
I applied months ago, and then I just, recently they got back to me, and I had to fill out some form, and then they got back to me, and now I have to shoot, a whole video, an official audition video.
That's so sick.
If I ever play Survivor, I'm such a bad liar. I'm really good at, strategy aspect, and I think I'm good at talking to people and making friends, but when it comes to, lying to someone's face, I have such a reactionary face. My face, you can read exactly what I'm thinking just by looking at me, so, I don't know. I want to play so bad. I want to play Survivor so bad.
If you're a Survivor fan, please put it in the comments. I would love to chat about this more.
Yes.
This is a climbing podcast, so. But the reason that I bring up Survivor is I was like, we gotta talk about this somehow. How are we gonna fit this in? For those of you that aren't fans, why? But also, you can tune out on this part. But we're gonna talk about how do we think climbing relates to Survivor, what aspects from climbing mentally and physically can we take? So, challenges.
Challenges, I think I am more equipped now than I ever have been to succeed in Survivor challenges.
What challenges specifically do you think physically climbing would prepare you for in Survivor?
So there are those challenges where you have to hold on to something and there's a percentage of your body weight in a bucket or whatever, and you have to keep it elevated. I think I could go forever on that. Grip strength, forearm strength is through the roof since I've started climbing. So anything endurance wise where you're responsible for holding a percentage of your body weight, or you have to rely on your hand or grip strength, I think I'd be set. I say that and then I know if I actually get to play Survivor and I'm in one of those challenges, I'm toast. I'll be first out. But
that is a good mindset, because the number one rule of Survivor, in my opinion,
never get comfortable. Courtney, that is my number one rule of Survivor. You never get comfortable.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say never get cocky, but it's the same exact thing.
It's the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Yeah.
So I went through a list of all those Survivor challenges. They're the top 50.
Yeah.
And I was curious if we would have the same opinions on which one. So you already got the arms overhead with a bucket or ball, endurance. And then there's this one where you have to grab a pole and just hang on.
And
forever.
there are very little slots for your feet to balance. But I don't know. It's very cocky of me to say I'm on those tiny little footholds all the time in the gym.
Do you think you should start climbing without shoes to prepare, or would you wear shoes?
So I think I would take a pair of soft climbing shoes.
Are you allowed to? Do you think you're allowed to do that? You need to ask that question.
I know. I have to ask. But my first pair of climbing shoes was they were, I don't know, I think they're known as the moccasins, and I don't know. They're just soft and they look kind of regular shoes, and they're lace up, so I feel if I got a pair of those and just wore them as my normal shoes, I wouldn't have to size down or anything, and just they'd be comfortable island shoes.
So I work for a running company, and I've tried to climb in running shoes. And running shoes are the exact opposite concept of climbing shoes. In that climbing shoes you want flat or a downturned toe.
Right.
Running shoes you want the exact opposite, because you want it to propel you. So when you try to climb, it's actually very, very difficult. I would rather climb barefoot than I would climb in running shoes, because you just slip
right
off the hold.
Yeah.
But I do think that there was a season where they climbed in, or they all had Vibram, 5-finger shoes. Or
interesting.
Or Vibram rubber shoes and whatever. I think Vibram was probably a sponsor of some sort.
Huh.
But I noticed in this season that there was a variety of different brands of shoes, because now I'm programmed to look at the shoes. And I may have had a bias towards a character. I call them characters, but I may have had a bias towards someone that wore my brand of running shoes to the end. So another challenge that I was interested in your opinion is the one where they have to stack blocks and they're like balancing. Yeah. Do you think that like the balance that you had as a climber, or do you think that like
I think my balance is better now that I've been climbing. I feel more physically capable from climbing because it's not just putting on muscle, it's like very specific weird skills.
Grip strength.
Grip strength is a huge one, but even like the concept of back flagging, even, you know, like understanding how to distribute your weight so you can move your body in a certain way, like that's such a huge, that wouldn't do nothing in like a game of balance or a challenge where that required body weight distribution and stuff, you know, it's just like you're more tuned to how your body moves.
I've been climbing for a couple years, and we went to one of those like ninja part things or whatever, and we had to climb up a ladder and then like try to jump on and catch this bar, and we're like on an auto belay, so like you're all good. Right. And as I'm climbing up the ladder, my friend Ben, who didn't climb, was like, "What are you doing?" I was flagging, like every step that I took up the ladder, I was flagging out to the side. And he was like, I didn't even notice. I just did it subconsciously. So I feel like I'm surprised there'd be things where people are like, "What are you like?"
Oh my god, yeah.
There's also a season in season 12. There's also one where they had to do like a pegboard, and they put the peg in, and then they stepped on the peg. Oh yeah. And I was like, hand foot match. Like that's literally just hand foot match. They were slipping. And I don't know, I think it's so funny because, like, so my little sister, she does Spartan races. Very fit, like, for reference, like, she usually, in most, like, age brackets or whatever, like, always gets in, like, the top 3 or whatever. Like, she just slays. I asked her what the hardest Spartan race challenge was, like, what she thought was the hardest. And she said that it was the zigzag wall. It basically is just a traverse on a zigzag wall with, think, like, cut 2x4s as holds.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Interesting.
It is the easiest challenge out of the entire Spartan race. Yeah. Like, I've done the ones that have, like, all the challenges.
But that's, like, it's grip strength. It's grip strength and balance, but, like, people don't think to work out their fingers and their hands. And, like, when you're holding on to a 2x4, that's what that is. Yeah, and
she said that was the hardest challenge. And I was like, Are you kidding me? That's the easiest challenge.
Wow.
But I also watched some people do it.
Yeah.
They, like we talked about, they're doing it in running shoes, so, like...
Fair.
But they put their foot, like, so the 2x4s are kind of angled, like, they're not flat. But they're putting their foot, instead of on the pointy part at the top where the angle's at, they're just like, you know, when you first take someone climbing and they like slap their foot like, in the very dead center. Yeah. That's what they're doing, and then they don't know how to switch feet. So going around the corner is like nearly impossible.
Interesting.
Even something as simple as like matching hands, it's like it's just a foreign concept to them.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And that blew my mind.
Yeah.
What about mentally? It'd be stupid to say that climbing has not helped you mentally be more strong, but like, what about some of those challenges where you're just out there for a long time? Do you think that like projecting has helped you?
Probably has. I think I operate a lot differently than other people do when they're playing sports. I am not a competitive person at all. Like I was the girl in tennis clinic who was like high-fiving people, and like I might make a mistake, but I'd be like smiling the next second, and I couldn't, things didn't get under my skin when I was training in tennis. And eventually when I got to like a certain level and started competing in like higher level tournaments, all the girls just like took it so seriously, and it was like very competitive, and the parents got nasty. There was like, it just like kind of turned me off from it, but it was very eye-opening to see how like, oh, okay, this is, I don't know if it's a natural thing or if I'm sure it's like nature and nurture as everything is, but I don't really, it takes a lot to like get me actually rattled in a competition setting. Climbing, especially when I'm projecting, I'm like mentally already in it for the long haul. Like if I see a problem and it has an approachable start but it's like difficult, I'm like, okay, I can commit to this. This is something that I can do, and I'm not gonna get like frustrated at myself if I don't send it. Like, not actually, but yeah, like it can be frustrating when you fall off the wall. But
have you ever been scared, like bouldering indoor? I mean, I know it's indoors, so it's a lot more safe, but like
way more safe. I think I'm having a phase where I'm like scared of slab right now, like tiny foot chips, and just some of the volumes they're putting up on the wall currently are like, the thought of cracking my head open on one of those is not fun, but
or like landing wrong and suddenly you can't have children anymore.
Right, exactly. Again, it's just like a constant mental focus, mental talk type of thing where it's like, all right, like, you're gonna fall on a nice cushy mat, and you might as well just commit to forcing your body over to that little foot chip.
One of the challenges that I was thinking about in Survivor that I was like, I wonder if that would translate, is there's a challenge where they have to hold on to, they're in the water, they have to hold on to a grate, and they have their mouth and nose up through the grate in order to be able to breathe.
And high tide comes in. And people do all sorts of crazy stuff. There's like people that are making snorkels out of their hands, like cupping their hands. I thought that was really creative. I really related to that in the sense of there's not actually the chance that you're gonna drown. Like, the chance that you're actually gonna drown is really low. Right.
You're right by the deck. There's a whole crew of people, but it's this like biological need to breathe.
Yes.
That freaks you out and ultimately like makes you quit. Which I will say, you know, once the tide gets to the level where you're completely underwater, then it's not a fear thing.
But it's like, I don't know if anyone watched this last season of Survivor, but in this past season, there were 2 winners of that challenge because they outlasted
3, right?
2. Cass dropped out too soon. She literally almost made it past high tide.
You're right.
But Carla and Owen, absolute legends.
I forgot.
Absolute legends, outlasted high tide and literally just became one with the water.
And if you haven't watched Survivor, I need to make it clear to you that they don't just like quit challenges. Like literally people have broken bones and like it depends on
the
what
challenge goes on. Like,
it goes on.
They get carted off and the challenge goes on.
Exactly. So the fact that they stopped and they were like, no, you're good, you're done. Because what happened is they outlasted the high tide.
They literally beat the model of the challenge.
Right. Which is hilarious.
But yeah, like something like that, you have to mentally talk your body out of panic. When you're underwater for that long, or when the swell comes and you literally cannot, there's no way for you to breathe for 20 seconds. So
I just related to that a lot because when I get scared in climbing, it's usually when I get scared bouldering, but it's usually when I'm on lead and I'm climbing something and I'm going to take a big fall. Hypothetically, like, everything 99% of the time is going to be completely fine. But I just related to that, like, biological fear of being afraid of falling. Being afraid that you can't breathe. And I also like how important breathing is in climbing. I read this quote that said that fear is excitement that lacks breath.
Ooh, that's really good.
And it was actually from my yoga teacher. She didn't say it, but she shared it with me. And I was like, fear is excitement that lacks breath. So I've really tried to like carry that principle over to my climbing. Like when I get scared, I've really tried to breathe.
Oh, I'm going to do that now. That's so good.
What's something right now that you're excited about in climbing? Like, what are some of your goals or like things you're looking forward to?
One thing that I want to get better at is just dynamic moves in general, and like again, it's the mental game of just telling myself, just go for it. Just like launch yourself and throw your body. That's like, just
simple.
Do it. Yeah, just do it. I want to start like regularly incorporating like dyno training into my sessions. Whether that's like having my friends make me a dyno just on the wall, I don't know. But I do want to get better at dynamic movements.
We can do that together.
Yes.
We need to make ourselves up some dynos.
Yes. I think at some point I'm gonna have to start like hangboard training and just, I don't know, keeping up with other forms of strength training so I can do some of the harder projects that I want. There's a V5, V7 in the gym right now that I have every move down except for this last final throw. It's like you have to pull really hard with your left hand and hoist your right hand over your head to catch this hold. And I just notice like, oh, this is where I'm literally just not strong enough to do this move. Like the finger strength is not quite there. The left, honestly, just like left arm pull strength is not there. So I want to do more strength training in the upcoming year just so I can actually get some of these harder projects.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you.
Me too. It has been, like, had you told me last year, like literally a year ago, that I would have 20 new best friends and I'd be on a climbing-centric podcast and I'd be coming to the gym for, like, 3 hours every, like, 4 days a week, I would have literally said you were insane. Climbing has completely changed my life.
It's so cliche, but it's so true.
It's so cliche.
Well, thanks so much for being on the Crag Chat Climbing Podcast. For those of you that are listening that are from Pittsburgh,
come climb with me.
Yeah, come climb with us. If you climb at Iron City Boulders, please, I'm looking for friends. Everyone wants to climb at Ascend. Nothing against Ascend. I just have a membership at Iron City Boulders.
Ascend is superior.
Okay. And that's a wrap. Hannah, thanks so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
If you're from Pittsburgh, I'd love, if you want to be on the podcast, give me a shout. I love talking to all sorts of different people. I want to get more people from Pittsburgh on, but also just like interesting people in general in the climbing community.
Courtney is one of my favorite people in the climbing community. If you are in Pittsburgh, you are missing out by not coming and climbing with her.
That's really sweet. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.